Jay, you gonna have Blake on your bike, man?
Huh?
Any chances of picking up Blake Lively and having her on the back of this?
Never happened.
Justin Baldoni might have a better chance as a guy, man.
I think everybody has a better chance.
Wow, thanks, Jay.
Jay Leno has always been one of Hollywood's most neutral, friendly faces, a man who avoids controversy and sticks to lighthearted car jokes and celebrity banter. So when even he couldn't hold back from publicly roasting Blake Lively,
so this means that the entire narrative that Blake Lively created about this smear campaign could collapse.
it felt like a cultural shift. During a casual interaction with paparazzi, he was asked whether he'd ever give Blake a ride on one of his iconic motorcycles. Without missing a beat, he replied that it would never happen, adding that everyone has a better chance than she does.
Wow. He is saying what everybody else is thinking right now. No one wants to have Blake Lively on their bike. That's for sure.
That moment quickly spread across social media like wildfire. It wasn't just a comment, it was a commentary. Coming from Leno, it was code. Blake Lively's reputation has reached a point where even Hollywood's most diplomatic names are comfortable taking shots. This public snub landed at the worst possible time for Blake.
Everyone knows who Jay Leno is. And what's special about Jay Leno is that everyone likes him. He's a very sympathetic guy. I've met so many people who said that Jay Leno is just like, he's just well liked everywhere.
Her legal campaign against director Justin Baldoni is collapsing, exposing layer upon layer of manipulation, weaponized narratives, and questionable legal tactics. What initially appeared as a legitimate misconduct allegation has slowly unraveled into a mess of contradictions, shady subpoenas, and misused influence.
So for him to say something like this about Blake Lively, I think is major, and it's really showing where Hollywood stands, really, when it comes to her.
The supposed victimhood image she leaned on to justify her accusations is starting to fall apart under scrutiny. It's not just the legal world noticing, it's the entire entertainment industry. Blake's narrative has always been tightly controlled. With her marriage to Ryan Reynolds and their mutual status as media darlings, she cultivated a polished, charming public persona. But behind the scenes, a very different picture has emerged.
Yeah, so if you missed that, this photographer said to Jay Leno, any chance of you picking up Blake Lively on your bike? And he said, that would never happen.
The shell company Vanzin, linked directly to her and Ryan through public filings, filed a lawsuit against 10 unnamed individuals. The goal wasn't to bring justice or accountability. It was to gain access to private data through legal backdoors. The subpoena targeted former PR employee Stephanie Jones, aiming to extract personal data from Jennifer Abel's phone.
And he said, maybe Justin Baldoni has a better chance. And Jay Leno said, everybody has a better chance than her.
That data, once obtained, was quietly used to shape the public-facing case against Baldoni. No names were ever officially attached to the Vanzin lawsuit. No trial. No closure. Just extraction, exploitation, and exit. This tactic is now under scrutiny.
You know, Hollywood is known to protecting its own until it doesn't. And when someone on the inside starts distancing themselves like he's doing here, I think that is a huge sign.
Legal experts suggest that if the court rules the subpoena improper, any data obtained through it becomes inadmissible. That includes the texts and emails Blake's team has relied on to justify their narrative. Without that evidence, her entire case crumbles. But more than just a legal defeat, it becomes a reputational implosion.
Little digs at her on talk shows, but not really anything like this. So thank you, Jay Leno, for being honest.
Because while the courtroom might focus on admissibility and process, the public sees something more raw and more damning: deceit. And that's where Jay Leno's comment enters the picture. His remark wasn't just about motorcycles or Blake Lively. It was a signal to the industry, a casual, unscripted reflection of what many have privately believed but publicly avoided.
Following the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively drama.
Yeah, no, that doesn't really, that just seems silly to me. I don't know. I can't say. You know, California is on fire. I don't know how many people are coughing through the flames trying to follow Blake Lively.
Blake Lively's narrative is no longer sustainable. Her PR-driven image has become a liability. Even those who once smiled politely are now stepping back, or worse, calling her out. And for Leno, who built an entire brand on staying above the fray, to join the chorus of criticism, that says more than any formal statement ever could. The unraveling of Blake's strategy is more than one misstep.
Because Van Zandt and Blake Lively's team don't want anyone to see the subpoenas that were sent to Stephanie Jones. Just to remind everyone, what happened was that a company called Van Zandt all of a sudden sued 10 anonymous people that they call Joe Does or Jane Does.
It's systemic. Her legal team is now trying to distance themselves from Van Zandt, claiming it's an independent third party with no direct ties to her. But public records and filings tell a different story. The links are clear. Emails, signatures, shared representation, all point back to Blake and Ryan. Their attempt to claim plausible deniability looks more like panic than a genuine explanation. The law firm that represented Van Zandt, Zuckerman Spader, isn't escaping unscathed either. They're now facing allegations of ethical violations, including abuse of privileged legal access and breaking confidentiality agreements to serve Blake's interests. This isn't just messy, it's potentially illegal. Legal experts are warning that if Blake's team is found to have abused subpoenas or manipulated court processes, sanctions could follow. Formal reprimands, loss of evidence, or worse, dismissal of the case. Behind the scenes, Hollywood is watching closely.
Because he collects cars and he's very into cars, and he's always being so nice to people. He's always waving, making jokes. I could just feel his vibe as well when I went to this screening of this movie.
The people who shape careers, producers, agents, casting directors, are reassessing their relationship with Blake. Her name used to be a draw. Now it's a question mark. The once coveted invites and endorsements are slowing down. Media outlets that once published flattering profiles are becoming more skeptical. And social media, always quick to pick up on public sentiment, is turning too.
I don't know how many people are coughing through the flames trying to follow Blake Lively.
Fans who once praised her poise and authenticity are now calling out the contradictions, the hypocrisy, the apparent manipulation. On the other side of this saga, Justin Baldoni has kept his distance. He hasn't paraded himself across media platforms or made grand declarations. His silence is calculated. His legal team may have missed deadlines, but insiders suggest it's a tactical pause, not a retreat.
He came over afterwards and offered me popcorn if I wanted to share his popcorn. The way he was talking to everyone, I was like, okay, Jay Leno is a really, really cool guy.
With every overreach by Blake's side, his position strengthens. As more revelations emerge, public sympathy is swinging his way. His friends and colleagues are standing by him, not because of PR strategy, but because they've seen the damage done and are tired of the distortion. Blake's media appearances haven't helped either. Her much-hyped podcast interview with New York Times journalist Megan Twohey was supposed to be a turning point, a chance to reclaim her story. Instead, it backfired.
But now Jay Leno has made his stand, and he's definitely not Team Blake Lively.
Twohey pressed her on key inconsistencies, and Blake's vague responses only deepened public doubt. The episode reminded everyone that this wasn't a straightforward case of harassment. It was a complex, emotionally charged conflict that had been oversimplified for public sympathy. And as Twohey pointed out, what Blake described could easily be interpreted as standard creative disagreements blown out of proportion. Blake's response? Doubling down. More subpoenas. More statements. More shifting claims. She's now targeting minor Wayfair employees and irrelevant third parties, turning the legal process into a spectacle. Every move seems designed not for justice, but for distraction. Her team is scrambling to stay ahead of the narrative. But the public isn't buying it anymore. The more she pushes, the more the truth peeks through.
But now Justin Baldoni's team, and obviously Jennifer Abel, who owned the phone, is saying, we want to see the documents that ended up with you guys sending a subpoena to Stephanie Jones, and we want to see the original subpoena. that was sent to Stephanie Jones, because I think Jennifer Abel never even saw a subpoena.
Wayfair, meanwhile, isn't playing the media game. They've remained focused, methodical, and data-driven. Their internal investigation is nearing completion, with a full document production set to be delivered by July 1st. According to insiders, the contents are explosive, emails and texts that could dismantle Blake's entire case. Unlike Blake's shifting claims, Wayfair is offering receipts. And in court, that matters more than curated narratives. All of this builds to a devastating conclusion. Blake Lively, once seen as Hollywood's relatable sweetheart, is now at the center of a spiraling legal disaster of her own making. Her reliance on celebrity clout, legal shortcuts, and media manipulation is failing. Even her allies are turning quiet. Jay Leno's roast, subtle as it was, felt like the breaking of a dam. His reputation makes his words matter. When he said everyone has a better chance than Blake, he didn't just mean romantically.
And then also Blake Lively's team is making sure that they're distancing themselves from Van Zandt and saying they're a third entity, they're a completely different company. We really have nothing to do with that.
He meant reputationally, morally, professionally. She's now the risk. Behind the scenes, damage control is in full swing, but the walls are closing in. Courts are asking tougher questions. Media outlets are revisiting their earlier coverage. Fans are rereading those Instagram posts with a more critical eye. The final straw could be the court's ruling on that Van Zandt subpoena. If it's thrown out, Blake loses her central piece of evidence. Without it, there's no case. And if that happens, we're no longer talking about damage control. We're talking about complete collapse. Blake and Ryan's carefully managed public image, once their greatest strength, is now working against them. Every public appearance is met with skepticism. Every statement is dissected. And with people like Jay Leno publicly distancing themselves, the message is clear. The industry is done pretending.
Regarding Van Zandt did not come from Van Zandt directly. It came from Blake Lively's team, who I'm sure are very good at cherry-picking things, as we know.
This isn't about cancel culture. It's about accountability. Blake Lively thought she could weaponize her reputation, control the media, and use the courts to silence opposition. But in doing so, she's revealed more about herself than any critic ever could. The tactics, the arrogance, the desperation, it's all laid bare now, and no amount of red carpet charm can cover it up. As Hollywood quietly closes its doors and the legal system prepares its verdict, one thing is clear. Blake Lively's reign as America's sweetheart is over. And it didn't end with a scandal. It ended with a joke on the sidewalk, told by the nicest guy in Hollywood, who finally said what everyone else was thinking.